YouTube. Starting Twitter. Stand by. All right, guys, here we go. Coming in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are in and live.
Hey guys, Nick Borrman here of WagerTalk.com with a special Tea Time from Vegas edition covering the one, the only Masters Golf Tournament this week. So excited to get this tournament underway. We've experienced quite the season, of course, for golf and every other sport, but this is going to be an awesome, awesome week. With me today, I have Andy Lang, also of WagerTalk.com. Extremely talented, extremely handsome, and damn good at golf handicap. Andy, welcome to the show. How are you, buddy?
Oh my God, it is such an amazing week. Masters in November. Are you kidding me? No fans? This is amazing. This is such a beautiful thing. I can't wait. And I have tons of plays, tons of action this week, and we always do good on the major. So really, really excited to get in this with you. This is our first Masters show that you and I have done together. This is a first. This is great.
This is absolutely our first. We had the privilege of doing the U.S. Open, but this is the first Masters, and strange enough, it's in November, as you mentioned. But, hey, it's still the Masters tournament. The one thing I kept asking myself was, if there's – the Masters is perfect. It's always in April. There's nothing else going on, right? There's no other sports it's competing with, really. But now you got an NFL Sunday to compete with on Sunday. I think if there's one event that could possibly pull some ratings away from an NFL Sunday, this might be the one. What do you think?
Depends who's on the leaderboard. Obviously, Tiger draws the ratings, and if you have 4 guys up at the top. But, if it's a Lanto Griffin versus Xander Schauffele leaderboard, probably not. But we're going to be in it. We're going to be involved. I'm going to be watching this all day Sunday. So that's all that counts.
If for nothing else, it'll be me, you watching, and maybe anybody else that hopped along some of our packages and have their own bets in, right? So
everyone that's following our bets, yeah, for sure, man.
Well, we got a good show here for today. We got a lot of things to talk about, a lot of angles and ways to attack this tournament from a betting perspective. Before we kind of get into that, I did want to let everybody know of a promo we have going on, both myself and Andy. As well as Dave Cokin, who was supposed to be on the show, has some scheduling conflicts, and we may get him in here as the show goes on. We all have packages up at WagerTalk.com, and you can use promo code MASTERS20, MASTERS20, to take $20 off our Masters packages that are up and available right now. So take advantage of that promo as we got full 4 days worth of coverage. So first thing I kind of wanted to talk about with you, Andy, was the course. This is the one major that consistently sticks at the same course every single year. Everybody that knows golf and even doesn't know golf has heard of Augusta, and for good reason. It's the mecca of golf out there. The question that I was asking myself and trying to figure out was, all right, we're playing Augusta in November. Is that different than playing Augusta in April, right? That's the first question we wanted to try to figure out. So I did a little digging. So a superintendent that I know that I'm close friends with actually worked at Augusta doing an internship there about 10 years ago. So I'm like, I got to go talk to him. He worked there during the tournament. He worked there for about 2 months and set up for the tournament and during the event. And I'm like, if anybody's going to know the answer, it's got to be him. I'm expecting him to come up with, oh, this is going to be different. This is going to be different. So I said to him, what's different? It's November, it's April, what's going to be different on the course? He said, nothing. I said, what do you mean nothing? And he said, well, listen, the course is overseeded in the spring with ryegrass. It's overseeded this time of year with ryegrass. It's the same type of material, the same kind of conditions. He did mention the one thing that would probably be different is in the fall season, you're coming down from the golf season, you're watering a lot less. So if anything, the course is going to play firmer, harder, faster. However, I think the big factor that we have to talk about this week, you mentioned it to me several times, and you've been watching the interviews today a lot with the players, Andy, so I'll let you talk about that. But the weather is going to be a big issue this week, and I think more than just the fact that the golf tournament is going to be in November, I think the weather is going to be something we're going to have to deal with. What do you know about the weather this week?
Well, first off, thank you to everyone that's joining us on YouTube. Get your questions in, get your comments in. That's what we're here for, here to help you guys out. Let's make a lot of money this week. Weather, over 40-50% chance of rain every single day. I think that makes this tournament potential chaos. I don't think it favors any particular tee times. Like I don't think you're going into this going, oh, the AM guys on Thursday have a huge advantage. Oh my gosh, the AM guys on Friday have a huge advantage. I think what this means is you can have some delayed rounds. I think you can have some tee times pushed back. I think guys in the middle of the rounds could see a stoppage for a couple hours. And to me, that favors the young guys. And unfortunately, I think that hurts guys like Tiger. Tiger needs hours to get his body ready. Delays are terrible for him. And I know he's good at the Masters. Of course, defending champ. Obviously, he's good here. I think this year could be tough for some of the guys where they love their routines. They love getting up, knowing when their tee time is. They get stretched out. They go hit a bucket of balls. They work on all their shots. And then all of a sudden there's rain and it's delayed. I like the younger guys. I think you could see someone like maybe a Morikawa, Hovland, Wolf, those three guys, Schauffele. I think that it's going to favor some of those guys if we do indeed have the bad weather. Bryson said he thought the wind was going to be a big factor here. And you have to look at some of the wind players. I lean European guys when there's rain and when there's wind. Those guys grew up playing in it. So I think if there's ever a year where you're going to have a surprise Masters champion, I think it could be this year. And it's not because of it being in November. It's because of the weather that they're getting down there in hurricane season. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's all good points. The weather is going to be the major if. And you're right. I think the biggest thing will be what are the scheduling changes going to be? Will we have rounds, not finished on Thursday, lingering into Friday? And will we have the same thing going before, a cut's made on Saturday? Will guys be forced to play 23, 24, maybe more holes on any particular day? And you're right. I think your older guys, the guys that your Phils, your Tigers, those kind of guys that, probably are better off on 18 holes and a strict schedule are probably going to struggle a little bit. I see guys that shoot from the hip a little bit, like guys that are having fun out there, like a Justin Thomas. Seems like a guy that just he wouldn't care what's happening. He's going with the flow. He's happy. He's go lucky. He might, be a guy that doesn't get distracted too much by that. But I guess a lot of that's speculation. So for me, I'm kind of looking at, what I normally look at for a lot of tournaments going into this. And we'll talk about a couple of the markets that we can hit on. And I guess we'll start right with, the outright market. I guess the question, for everybody, ourselves included, for the listeners out there is, who the hell's going to win this thing, right? So we have our favorites out there on the list. We know who those are. We'll go down the list. I mean, you got guys right now. The odds have moved. I've been looking at them since yesterday, even a little bit Sunday night, and even into this morning, and they're changing. So the odds on the screen are, you may see at some books, you may see slight variances, and you might see them move a little bit. I mean, you have your favorites right now. You have DeChambeau and Dustin Johnson, both around 8-1. I see DeChambeau's fallen to plus 750 at DraftKings. I'm currently looking at the odds. Rahm 10-1, Rory 13-1, Justin 13-1, Xander and Koepka both under 20-1, and then you fall down into the 3,000 range, which you got a lot of good players. You got Matsuyama, you got Patrick Reed, a past winner, Bubba Watson, who's playing well right now, a past winner, Jason Day, who's playing pretty well, Cantley, of course, coming off the win 2 weeks ago. And then, you fall down into the 4,000 range, and you got your Tigers. So you got Morikawa, PGA champion, Webb Simpson, who's just as steady as they come. So it's a stacked leaderboard, and when you get down to that 3,000, 4,000 range, and you're getting guys like that, it's pretty exciting. So, for me, I'm trying to find a little bit of mix of both. Some of the guys that are probably in the higher market range that are probably going to be there on Sunday and have a chance, but you can't just bet that. You got to look for the guys, which I think there's a lot of value on the table for some of these guys. So I'll go to you first, Andy. Who do you think outright market? Who do you think is a good play for the viewers this week?
Well, it's really interesting. A lot of people are off of Bryson, and I get it. The Masters is not a course that traditionally you can overpower. Bryson has proven me wrong. He has proven everybody wrong. He had a game plan that he has executed perfectly. I can't give the guy enough credit. And I watch an interview with him and talk about a guy with so much self-awareness. Today he even said, I don't think my body's going to work at 30 the way it is now. So I need to get as many wins, and I need as much success as possible. It was a great interview, and I'm not betting against Bryson DeChambeau. I can't. I think he's the betting favorite because the books don't know what to do, but I'm not going to bet against Bryson DeChambeau. I'm either betting on him or I'm not betting him at all. He's won me over. I love a guy with that much passion to do something completely different. And he's won. He's already won the argument against Bryson DeChambeau. He won. We all lost. We all thought it was ridiculous what he would do, and he's won it. So I'm not going to bet against him. I like Tyrrell Hatton. I think this tournament is setting up perfectly for someone like him. Tyrrell Hatton's talent has never been the problem. It's very John Rahm-ish. It's always been the attitude. Can you hold it together? Like when you have a bad shot, do you throw your club at your caddy or do you shake your head and move on to the next shot? And this year, Tyrrell Hatton has turned the corner attitude-wise. And he continues to be the second best follower on social media behind Eddie Pepperell. And so you got that. But Tyrrell Hatton has 9 top 25 finishes on the PGA Tour in 2020. I never thought I would see that. I never would have guessed that you would see this much success from Tyrrell Hatton. And he had that big win at the BMW over in Europe. And as you know, that's a big boy tournament. It's not a major, but it's major tough. And now if we're going to get wind and we're going to get rain, I think this favors some of these European guys that have grown up playing on these courses. And obviously this isn't a links style European course, but it's a course where somebody has to fight adversity, and Hatton has shown that. And I've watched him and followed him closely. I've bet on him a lot. I love what I'm seeing from him this year, and several wins. So he's shown he can close out. I love Tyrrell Hatton this week. It would not surprise me at all if he's got a green jacket by the end of the weekend.
Hatton's a good play. I mean, you're right. He's off a win. He's got 2 other top 10s in his last 3 starts, tied for 7th last week at the Houston Open. He's a guy that has been good, is going to continue to be good. He was flying under the radar earlier this year, and now with that win in the European Tour. I mean, really, from our perspective, we've known about him for a while, but he's definitely a guy that's worth the play. And he's a good price this week. I'm seeing him right now at 25-1. On the outright market. So I think there's a lot of value there. 5-1 for a top 5 and plus 225 for a top 10. So I like Hatton. I agree with you. I think he's a great play. I've been riding him a little bit the last few weeks. I got two guys that I was kind of looking at this week. One's a little bit unsexy. That's a low price guy. And then another one I'm going down the list on. So of the favorites, I hate to look at anybody under 20-1, but if I'm going to, it's going to be Rahm. I think this is going to be a good event for him. I mean, I'm just looking really, you could listen to an argument on any one of these top guys, right? I mean, really, seriously, you could. But in his last 7 starts, he's no worse than a tied for 23rd. He won the BMW Championship, which is very, very difficult conditions. Last year, I mean, statistically, he's top 20 guy in everything. Off the tee, number 4, number 3 tee to green, number 1 total shots gained last year. 22 in putting. I mean, you name it, he's up there everywhere. So I could go on and on and on. But again, not a sexy play. Another way to attack him that I like to do on these favorites, because 10-1 isn't great necessarily on an outright play, is to look down how far down can you go on a leaderboard bet with him, which we'll talk about later in the show. But Rob might be a guy you look at, maybe a top 10, right? It takes a lot to win, but if you think he's going to be in contention, the top 10 is plus 120 right now on John Rahm. That's worth a few more bucks than an outright play. Because an outright play, you're not going to put a lot of money on. But plus 120 for a top 10, I think is a pretty good value on a guy like Rahm.
I like that. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say the other guy I was looking at that is further down the list is Matthew Fitzpatrick. He is seeing him at 66-1 right now on DraftKings. I think he's 70-1 actually on FanDuel. He's a guy in his last 10 starts since the Memorial. He has 3 missed cuts, but he also has 4 top 10s during that stretch as well. And he's got the game of somebody that could contend in Augusta. He was ranked number 2 on tour last year in shots gained putting, number 16th total shot gain, and 23rd in scoring average. I mean, those are pretty high rankings for a guy that's getting down in the 70-1 range. I think he's worth a lot of different ways to attack this week. I really like Matthew Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, you talked about John Rahm. I don't think he's going to win. Another guy who I don't think is going to win, but Ricky Fowler is 2-1 to finish in the top 20. I don't think he's going to win, but guess what? He's finished top 25 out of the last 6 years. All you need from Fowler is that classic where Ricky Fowler's in 35th going into Sunday, and he gets an early tee time, no wind, no pressure, and he goes out and shoots a low round, and what do you know? He's 11th. Nowhere. He's never been close to the lead all week. Oh, guess what? He cashed a top 20 ticket. So yeah, I agree with you that So there's a lot of those little plays like that, and I love your Matthew Fitzpatrick play. I have a buddy of mine that calls him Mighty Mouse. But yeah, Fitzpatrick is one of those guys that there's several guys in the field this week that play good in majors. Matthew Fitzpatrick is one of them. He doesn't get a lot of publicity over here. European tour, he doesn't win a whole lot, but the solid finishes are there, and that's how you can cash these props and these head-to-head matchups. So I'm with you. I like those.
Well, I don't want to cut you short, Andy, but I got a rumor. Hang on, let me check. Yep, there's a rumor that we might have a Dave Cokin in the house.
Breaking news. Oh, look who it is. My man.
How are you?
The one and only Dave Cokin. Thanks for joining us. Dave, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fine. I'm trying to figure out what's on my mustache here.
I think it's on the other side.
Yeah, I had a little nosebleed before, so that might be remnants from the nosebleed, I suspect. Sorry about that. So you'll have to just put up with blood.
Dave, I love you. You come on the Master Show. I just had a nosebleed. Let's talk golf winners. You're the best.
We'll dress that up later on.
Dave, we just
my allergies have kicked into rare form with the change in weather here in Las Vegas, and I'm a mess right now. It's as simple as that. So you'll have to put up with me as I am. So a lot of nose blowing today, and unfortunately, I think I must have broken a little vessel or something like that. But it seems to have stopped.
No offense. I don't want to hear about your allergies. I'm in Indianapolis. 4 days ago, I had to scrape ice off the windshield of my car. Today, it's 75. It is.
No, the bits of it wasn't even my car.
Back to golf.
My dad's. I wasn't old enough to drive at that time. Go scrape the ice off the window. So.
Well, Dave, we're happy.
That's the downside of being there's a lot of good things about being an only child because you get all new stuff. You don't have to worry about getting anybody else's stuff. But the downside is the chores. You get them all.
True. That's true. Dave, we're happy to have you any way we can get you. Nose bleeding or not, we're glad to have you here, buddy. So Andy and I just threw out a couple outright winners. We're going to move on to the leaderboard market, but did you want to, for the listeners, throw anybody that you were looking at on the outright side for anybody today?
I didn't play it. I'm not playing any outrights. I just stopped because the last outright deal I ended up with two guys who finished second. Tied for second. So it's like, okay, enough. That's it. I'm just going to go with the matchups. I'd pick Dustin. If I had to pick anybody, I'd take Dustin Johnson. Love the way he's comes out of last week's event. Obviously, he's very tough in majors. I'd like to give Koepka an endorsement, but I don't know if how the knee holds up 2 weeks in a row, because I did that one other time earlier this season, and let's just say it didn't work out very well.
Yep.
So I would, if I had to pick anybody, it'd be Dustin Johnson. But I'm not really interested in any of those guys at cheap prices, just not much of a return. And you can throw a blanket over the top guys. I think it will be one of the stars that wins this week. This is not an event where I'd looked at Morikawa or somebody down the list, some who's a really good player, but first timers just don't win the Masters, and he's never played this before. So I focused on matchups. And focused mostly on the not big name matchups, to be honest with you. I couldn't separate the top guys, but I did find some value down below on matchups I like. I ended up with 5. I just posted them at WagerTalk in a package. I don't know if we have a coupon or not. It's $39. to get all 5. There's a best bet in there. And I'm 25-9-1 on my matchup plays since I dropped the outrights and just went matchups. So 25-9-1 is pretty good.
That's a good run, Dave. And yeah, we threw out a promo code to begin the show. We have Masters20 for those just tuning in. Masters20 gets $20 off any of our 3 packages up. So $19, normally $39 for $19 using that promo code Masters20.
So you can get all 3 packages for total of $57. That's not bad.
That's right. That's
a steal. Not bad. It's a steal.
Well, no, it's not a steal because a steal would be if they took it for nothing and didn't pay. Okay, that would be
by definition.
This is a good value.
By definition, Dave is right again. All right, so head-to-heads, Dave on fire. Andy, you have a good head-to-head run going right now as well. What's your head-to-head run right now?
21-5, 7 winning tournaments in a row. People that have followed me who come over from the podcast, they know I don't have a ton of plays most tournaments, but I aggressively bet the amount on those plays. And I got cocky last week. I had 3 plays, and I said parlay these 3 plays. I'm going 3-0, which I have never said before, and I went 3-0. And nice. I have the same passion about the plays this week. And the nice thing about the majors is I will have a lot more plays in my package because the books give us a lot more plays. There's a lot more props. There's a lot more opportunities. So it was a long night last night. And at the end of the show, I'm going to save it for the end of the show. I have a prop that I'm going to give you guys that is 101-0. It is hit 101 times and has lost 0. It's a very, very obscure offshore prop, and I will give that out at the end of the show.
Whoa. I need to know what that is. Now, listen, you guys are both kicking ass in head-to-heads. I suspect at the end of the show, you'll both send me a quick email with that list. Right? Are we good with that? We can come to an agreement right now?
Yes.
Done. All right. Before we get to the head-to-heads, we're going to move on. We'll talk a little bit about leaderboard market, which is another market I like to play, and I'll get your guys' opinion on a few guys that you may think here. For those, we talked about the outright. The outright's hard to win. It's one guy. The leaderboard market's another good way to attack any golf tournament. It gives players that Dave already mentioned that you think are going to do well but end up finishing second. Well, it gives you another way to still cash on those where you can take them top 5, top 10, and you have a much better success rate, at least at cashing those. The one thing I'll warn everybody about, or at least educate everybody about, is check your books. So when it comes to leaderboard bets, top 5, top 10, top 20, whatever it is, check something of how they grade what's called the dead heat rule. And that is basically if you have multiple players tied for a top 10 spot, let's say you have 5 guys tied for 10th, but really what that means is, and let's say there's 5 guys tied for 10th, and when you look at the leaderboard, only 1 spot's available, meaning, all right, there's 9 guys ahead of them, and then 5 guys tied for 10th. Well, you're not getting the full payout then because technically only one of those 5 players was the 10th position. So it's not as simple as just dividing what your payout would be by 5 in that case. Every book has a slightly different obscure rule where they divide the odds, they multiply by this factor, do this or that, but it's going to work out to be similar to that. So just want to check that and let everybody know that there is a little bit of a downside when you're betting like a tied for 10, a top 10 or a top 20. If there's a tie on that number, your payout could get reduced somewhat. But again, still a good way to bet guys that you think are going to be good. So without further ado, one guy, Dave, you already mentioned him. You stole my thunder that I was looking at for this because I think Dustin Johnson is going to have a great week here. And while him to win outright is only paying 8-1 right now, top 10, which I got to believe he's going to be in the top 10 come the end of this tournament, he's plus 110. His last 6 starts, he's got 2 wins, 3 runner-ups, and the tied for 6 was his worst finish. I mean, there's only 8 golfers in the last 6 events that have beaten him, which is crazy to think about. I don't know if this has any – if you guys saw this or not. He had the lead Sunday at the Houston Open. And you know what? I think he just decided to lose that tournament because the curse is you don't win the Masters after winning the week before. But maybe that's just me getting scared of what might happen. But I think he might have lost that one on purpose. But I like Dustin Johnson. I think he's a good leaderboard bet this week, top 10. Dave, I know, again, you're playing mostly head-to-heads, but on the leaderboard side, have you looked at any guys that you think are worthy of some dollars this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think Patrick Reed will be somewhere on the leaderboard in this event. He's got a spotty history at the Masters, although he did win it 2 years ago. But I kind of like his form right now. And Reed, for two reasons, there's a couple of things about Reed. One is he's not well liked among the bettors or the fans. So you generally always get a fair price on him. And I think that's the case here. He's a little down the list. I think he's got a good chance to be a top 10 this week. And that's a guy I would look at as a leaderboard play.
He is even money right now, Patrick Reed, for a top 20. I think that's a pretty good bet. Even money for a top 20. So if he's anywhere in contention at all, and you're right, I think he's a great play for this week. Reed, past winner. Good course history overall here, and he is in pretty good form right now as well. And he's a strange guy. Every time I seem to bet on him, he doesn't play well, and every time I stay off him is when he's right in contention. So if you're going with him this week, I'll lay off him just for your sake, Dave, so we can let you cash that one. Andy, how about you? Anybody you were looking at on the leaderboard side of this?
Well, Dave said, Patrick Reed, he's not well liked by fans or, better. He's also not well liked by his family. And Patrick Reed, one of the best stories in golf was 2 weeks before he won the Masters, he was in his house and he said something to his wife about not being able to see the TV. And his wife said, "Are you serious? You can't see that? You can't see that graphic on the TV?" And he said, "No." And she sent him to Lens Crafters where he got contacts and said he could see for the first time in a while. And he went out and won the Masters. It's such a great story. Yeah. All right. Outright winner. I'll give you one. I think this is going to be a goofy Masters. So give me a goofy guy. I will take a guy who has won this tournament twice, who nobody's talking about, even though he finished 12th last year, 5th the year before, and he's coming in with 2 straight top 7 finishes, and he's a lefty, which this course sets up well for. Give me Bubba Watson, 45-1. Some books are even at 50-1. So this course sets up beautiful for lefties. Something has happened in Bubba's game because, 4 top 18 finishes in his last 5 tournaments. He always plays good here. He's won this thing twice, and he's a guy that it's not all about the big muscles and the big power, and I love that nobody's talking about him. I could see Bubba being in one of the last couple groups. So, give me Bubba Watson.
I like Bubba. Past winner. Yeah. Lefties in history at this course, man. Lefties do well here. A lot of cut shots favor the left-handed player here, so I like that play this week. One guy I already mentioned, Dustin Johnson, is a good bet for me this week. Another guy that I was looking at that I'm going further down the list is Ian Poulter, plus 300 for a top 20. Top 20 is a bet I like to go at a lot because it's a guy that's like, okay, he can have a couple good days and maybe he fades a little bit on the weekend, or maybe he has a strong Sunday, just comes out and finishes top 20. But the reason I'm on Poulter is twofold. He's playing well as of late. His last 3 starts, tied for 6th, a 5th, and then a tied for 12th at the CJ Cup. But if there's any course that course history matters, it's probably Augusta. And he is 13 of 14 in cuts made at this event with 7 top 20 finishes, including tied for 12th here last year. So just on that alone, plus 300 just seems like it's just too good of a price for me to pass up. So he's kind of a guy. It's another strategy I like to use in the leaderboard markets is down the list, see where you can get guys like Ian Poulter at plus 300 for a top 20. I think is worth a few bucks this week. So again, one plug I want to throw in here is today is $2 Tuesday at WagerTalk.com. Both myself and Andy are the $2 cappers at WagerTalk. We have a Masters head-to-head matchup play, each of us available over there. So make sure to check that out. And at SportsMemo.com, Mid-Major Matt is the $2 feature handicapper. So make sure to check that out over at SportsMemo.com or WagerTalk.com for our Masters $2 best bet. Or again, for the better deal, look to get our complete tournament pack and get all the plays for this week. So without further ado, let's go to your guys' bread and butter. Let's talk a couple head-to-head tournament matchups, right? So for those that have looked at these lists, any given week, what do we see, guys? 24, 25-ish head-to-head matchups? Well, I'm seeing 80 right now or more available out there, and this is typical for the majors. So I'll be honest, I haven't gotten through them all yet. I will continue more tonight and into tomorrow, but it's a daunting list. It just means, as you alluded to, Dave, there is a lot of matchups where it's guys that you're not normally paying attention to, or not, it's not the big names out there because there's a lot of available options here. So, Andy, go to you first. What do you think head-to-head matchup-wise? Any guys, any matchups out there that you're liking this week?
Yeah, I actually went through all of them last night. I was up till 4 a.m. Going through all of them. Went down a YouTube deep dive of MGK and just went through every single matchup. And I got a bunch of them. And I love Justin Harding over Graham McDowell. That's the one I would focus on today. McDowell completely lost his game since the restart. He's made 2 cuts out of 10 tournaments on the PGA Tour. Last week he was horrible in the Houston Open. He somehow made the cut there. Made one back in July. Harding has been up and down, but I really like the South African much better than McDowell last week. Better in the few tournaments they've played in together. Big selling point for me. McDowell has not played here in 3 years. Harding finished 12th last year at the Masters. McDowell's last 4 finishes at the Masters going back 3 years, 3 missed cuts and a 51st place finish. So I get to bet against McDowell, who betting against McDowell has been a money-making machine. I get him at a tournament he hasn't played in 3 years, and I get Harding, who finished 12th here last year, was better than McDowell last week. That's my play.
I love it. I would not have guessed Justin Harding finished tied for 12th here last year. I would not have guessed that at all. So that's good. I mean,
that's a great par bet, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, absolutely. You really hit on a great point, though, with these head-to-head matchups. And for listeners out there looking at these themselves, it's not always about who's going to play well. The head-to-head matchups, it's one guy versus another guy. So just as important as finding guys you think are going to play well are guys you think are going to struggle and fading them. And you hit that on the head. Fade Graham McDowell. I love the play. Absolutely love it. Dave, head-to-head king.
Hey, Nick, sorry, real quick. Can I say something real quick?
Absolutely, yeah.
Justin Harding is only $6,300 on DraftKings.
$6,300 on DraftKings.
You get a guy that finished 12th here last year.
Good price. That's a good price. And we'll come to you in a little bit. I know you got your DraftKings lineup for everybody's set, so I'm going to come back to you for that in a minute. Dave, head-to-head matchup. What do you got for the listeners?
Spieth has been a cash cow for me going against him, and I know he's got a good history here, but he's not. That's not the same guy who's on the course now. I'm down on Justin Rose. I think when we were doing the golf shows on a regular basis earlier, I said I think he's lost a step, but he loves this course. Usually plays well here. Price is pretty reasonable. That's the free play for this week. I have actually 6 matchups, the 5 matchup package, and this one. I'm on Justin Rose, about minus 135 against Spieth, and I figure to get the 2 guys I've been fading basically every week are Spieth and Brendan Grace. Well, Grace isn't in the tournament, so I can't fade him, but I can fade Spieth, and I'll do it again here.
I like it. So Spieth was also up against Sergio, who pulled out of the tournament for the first major.
He'll win that. That's one matchup he'll win.
Yeah, that's one. Yep, exactly. I was ready to pull the trigger on Sergio too. I was like, you know what? He's playing pretty dang well. He's out. So I do like.
Actually, I would have preferred Sergio.
Yeah, agreed.
Because obviously he likes the tournament, and I think he's a better player than Rose at this point. And I would have had Garcia versus Spieth, but obviously that's not going to happen.
Agreed. So I love it. Fade Spieth. We always, all 3 of us are 100% in agreement with that almost every week. Andy says it every week. It's almost like there's not really a lot of handicapping needing when you get Spieth in the tournament. Just put your money against him and wait for the ticket window on sometimes Friday, right? Even though they don't pay out, the tickets won on Friday.
I think it was this past week. Yeah. I had whoever he played in the matchup, and it's a tie going to the last hole on Friday. Yeah, because my guy had a terrible Friday and had blown it what was like a 6-shot advantage to Spieth. And it looks like it's going to be a push because they're both going to miss the cut. But Spieth bogeyed the 18th hole, and I win the matchup. Thank you very much. He just hits too many shots off the fairway. And you got to put yourself in position on the greens, even if you're a great putter. And that's the one aspect of Spieth's game that is still very strong. But he can't get to the green. And the likelihood is he'll have a couple of double bogeys at some point on Thursday and Friday, and I don't know if he'll be around for Saturday.
100% agreed. Spieth's downfall has certainly been his driver, and not hitting fairways at Augusta is really a death sentence before anything else. I mean, you could argue you got to hit fairways anywhere, but you got to hit fairways at Augusta, and without that, he's not going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's courses where you don't have to hit the fairways. Depends on the conditions. We saw when they came out the shutdown, you basically just had to not go out of bounds, and you had a good, and that's why we were seeing ridiculous scores of 21, 22 under to win tournaments, because there were no penalties. And DeChambeau was the guy who benefited the most from that, because he was hitting the ball 9 million miles, and even when he was offline, he'd have a good look at the green with one of his short irons, so it really benefited him. That's why part of the reason I'm not involved with him here, by the way, is I don't care how far you hit it, you better hit it someplace where the green is accessible, and he never putts well on this course anyway. So I avoided DeChambeau this week. Yeah.
I think we all did, just because of his pricing. The head-to-head matchup I'll throw out there for this week is I went with Sebastian Munoz over Billy Horschel. I actually made this play in the last event these guys were at, which was the Zozo. Munoz ended up finishing tied for 14th. Horschel, I think he finished 69th out of 77 in that limited field event. Munoz is just a good young player. He's really, really come on since the restart. In his last he's made 9 straight cuts with 6 top 25 finishes during that stretch, including that tied for 14th at the Zojo and 9th at the CJ Cup. His stat line isn't necessarily great from last year as far as his rankings go, but that's just because at the beginning of the year he wasn't really doing much. But since the restart, he's a guy that's really come on strong, and I think he's undervalued a lot of markets. He has been. I've been playing a lot of different ways the last few weeks, but I like him over Horschel. Horschel, he finished second at the Wyndham back in August, but he hasn't cracked the top 25 in 6 starts since. And like I said, he would have missed the cut at the Zozo had there been one, and he had a couple other really bad finishes as well. So my play this week is Munoz over Horschel, which is right at about minus 110 odds right now, and I think that's a good way to get in. So again, for those looking for matchup plays, I'm not saying to avoid the big names out there, but look down the list, do your research. You can find a lot of value, as we just alluded to, on guys that are lesser known or guys that you aren't normally offered, on the matchup market. So make sure to check your list down there. All right, next thing I want to talk about is Andy. Before the show, we talked a little bit about daily fantasy, and Andy alluded to me that he is the guy for the majors, correct, Andy? But just maybe not so much on the other events. So talk to us a little bit about your matchups or your pools this week. Who you got in your lineups? Where the value is on prices with some of your guys? What do you got for us this week?
Okay, so I am absolutely horrible at DraftKings in non-majors. I can't do it. I lose every week. The majors come around, and all of a sudden, I'm a money-making machine. I know this about myself after 10 years of trying this, or however long DraftKings has been around. So I have not played in any DraftKings or daily fantasy outside the majors, and I'm going to be playing in DraftKings this week. What works in the Masters is there's 2 theories. You can go stars and scrubs, so really expensive people, and then lower tier people, or middle of the road guys. Middle of the road works at the British Open. I still call it the British Open. I refuse to call it what everyone else calls it. It's the British Open. It works there. At the Masters and the US Open, stars and scrubs. That's the way to win, because it's always a big name person that is winning these tournaments. So I'm going to give you guys some lower tier guys. You can use these in your office pools. I have friends in Ireland that do these weird office pools and crazy things, and they're always looking for lower tier guys. So here's some guys, and I'm going to build a DraftKings lineup right here on the show that includes Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, and Xander Schauffele, and I will guarantee I'm going to make money off this. 6,900, Eric Van Rooyen. This guy has never missed a cut at a major he's played in, and he has 3 top 25 finishes at majors. This guy's 6,900. He's less than $7,000. 7,000, I got Ian Poulter, 3 straight top 12 finishes coming into this week, and he was 12th last year at the Masters. 6,900, Nick, your boy, you're feeling the burned Weisberger. Never. It depends what announcer you get. Who pronounces that name correctly? Burned has never finished outside the top 45 at the Masters. You're getting a guy that's guaranteed to play on the weekend. 6,500. Adam Hadwin never missed the cut at the Masters, and he's only missed 2 cuts since August of 2019. And then Xander Schauffele, 11 straight top 25 finishes in tournaments. Here's my DraftKings lineup. Burned, 6,900. Van Rooyen, 6,900. Hadwin, 6,500. That's crazy. You get Brooks Koepka, who said today his knee feels great and he is ready to rock. He's only 9,700. DJ, who's the hottest golfer on the planet, he's 10,000. And Xander Schauffele at 9,800. I just submitted that in the $4 million contest on DraftKings. And if you don't see me next week, it's because I won.
So I see what you did there. You got 3 guys that are going to be in contention on Sunday, and you got 3 more guys that, well, they could be in contention on Sunday, but they're probably going to be at least in the field on Sunday, right? You went way down.
They're going to be getting me points on Saturday and Sunday. Yes.
That's the important part, right? Anybody playing fantasy out there, you got to find the guys that you think are going to make the cut. Before the show started, I mentioned to Andy, I was like, I thought I was all proud. I was like, what about Fitzpatrick for $7,600? And he just kind of laughed at me and said, that's not good enough. So listen to Andy when it comes to daily fantasy. He really knows what he's doing on that market. It's a fun way to play these events. Golf is it's a unique sport when it comes to these daily fantasy matchups. And Andy's, there's not many out there that are better than him. That's for sure. So again, wanted to mention everybody that missed it before. We have a promo code going on right now, Masters20, to take $20 off our Masters package. There was somebody in the chat that mentioned it wasn't working on Dave's package. It should be up now. I was just confirming with customer service kind of while the show is going on. They should all be working. Masters20. So check that out again if you tried already and it didn't work. But as we get towards the end of the show here, I have to ask Andy. I mean, you mentioned earlier this show, you had something for us, something 101 and I mean, that's just like the most sales pitchy thing I've ever heard. That can't be true. What are you hiding from us? What do you know? What kind of prop you got going for us that's just a surefire winner?
Okay, so starting in 1934, when the Masters started, they've played every year except 3. And in every single tournament, there has never been a golfer to shoot in the 60s in all 4 rounds. And on the offshores, they have the prop. Will anybody shoot in the 60s in all 4 rounds? And it is minus 180. I looked it up. I did the research. This prop has hit 101 times and has lost 0. You will never find a play that is 101 and 0, but this one is it. Will a player shoot in the 60s in all 4 rounds? Never happened, ever. I couldn't believe it myself, so I actually started looking up manually all the rounds, and all the winners, they at least shoot a 70. There's always one round that's a 70 or a 71, and now you get rain and wind, and there's no fans. So, yes, there it is. There's your play. That's 101-0. Jump on it.
Wow.
Watch the odds go from minus 180 to minus 900 after this airs.
Hang on. I think there's I'm getting it in right now. I think there's 100 people in the chat room that are probably doing the same right now. I mean, that seems too good to be true. 101-0.
Yes.
That is damn good. That is damn good. Dave, do you remember that 1934 Masters? Was that? Oh, I'm sorry. Was that,
yeah. Actually, it was. I caddied.
caddied. I figured you could have
caddying for Bobby Jones.
This to be true.
Can you hear him? I'm the reason he was, Bobby, when they do all these retrospectives on Bobby Jones, they never give me any credit for the work I did caddying for him.
Listen, you wear the same hat. I'll give you that. You wear the same hat, and I love it. Guys, I want to say thanks for coming into the chat today. Before we wrap up, I wanted to leave it with Dave and Andy. If there's any last things you guys wanted to throw out there. Thanks, Dave. Go ahead.
Ranieri, who I do the early edge show with, and Joe is, I forget what Joe's got some fancy ass title, which I don't know what it is, but he's he's really way up the chain at Wager Talk. How come you didn't let me know I had blood in my mustache before you punched me in? Jesus Christ. I look bad enough as it is, and now I'm doing a show with the residue from a nosebleed.
Listen,
anyway, I got 5 matchups up. I thought it was
just ketchup. So, in my defense, I thought it was a hot dog you might have eaten.
No, I'm neat with food, not so good with blood. And now people are probably going to think that now he's bullshitting about the nosebleed. He's actually a vampire, and that's residue from last night's biting. Anyway, thanks for that, Joe. Appreciate it. I'll get you back down the line, I guarantee you. Anyway, get the package and save the $20 with the Masters 20 as the coupon at checkout. That's really, it's a very good deal.
Dave is on quite the head-to-head run. Definitely worth the money this week. Andy, also on a head-to-head run. Any last words for the listeners?
Yeah, we've been absolutely crushing our UFC picks on Takedown Live. We did it was like a 20-minute spiel on why the underdog was going to win in the main event, and it won. And golf has been so good to us. 7 straight winning tournaments, 21-5, and majors is it's my bread and butter. It's what I do. So the promo code is still crazy. I've lost the argument that it's a steal. It's not a steal, but it's the best deal. It's the best deal that I've seen since I've been a part of Wager Talk. So use it. And yes, you can get all of our picks. You can get Dave's picks. You can get my picks. You can get Nick's picks. All of them for a very, very reasonable price. And you're going to make money off of it.
Can't wait to get this week underway. Thursday can't come soon enough. Let's just hope we avoid a lot of the weather delays and issues that they're going to call for, because that's just going to make it, a little more of a hassle for all of us. But it's Masters Week, guys. Enjoy the week. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to head on our pages at WagerTalk.com. Check out those packages. And hopefully we'll be back soon with another live stoppage time show for you in the coming weeks. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Good luck with your bets this week, and we'll see you next time.